Hello and welcome to the HP TV podcast with Mitchell, Jamie, and Steven, this week featuring our awards for the Harry Potter films. We were debating names. Potties didn't go over well. We also talked about the Snitchies, the Harrys, some combination of Dundies and Grammys. We're somewhere in that realm.
HPVZs?
The HPVZs. But then there might be an HPV society that's mad that we are encroaching on their territory. Who knows? Let's get a crackin' with awards. So these are based on the movies, which we've been told we were quite harsh on, but it is what it is. We're looking forward to the TV show. These are movie-based questions. I mean, you can't not consider the book because some of these are in relation. But let's start with Steven's first one, which is the most rewatchable scene, that's a tough, you have some options here, so you can go through those. That's a tough one over 8 movies.
Well, I'll let Jamie. I think Jamie actually suggested this category.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My bad.
For it.
I'm out.
Any that you want to go through first, Jamie?
Dare you? No, I mean, I can give you the option. So I had some, and then Steven added a few. And this, it's so hard because even I'm like, I know I'm missing like major stuff that I like.
And we just watched these, over the last couple of months.
Yeah. I have no memory. So I have the first Sorting Hat ceremony, which I think is more like nostalgia, excitement. Steven's frozen for me, really funny right now with a big smile on his face. Fred and George fireworks scene. Dumbledore versus Voldemort in the Ministry. Snape saying, "I am the Half-Blood Prince." McGonagall awakening the statues and just really that whole scene of like them battle prepping. Steven had Diagon Alley, Dobby being free, and Harry riding Buckbeak. The cave would be like an honorable mention. That whole scene.
I think mine would be the DA. I like the DA coming together, and I like those scenes of them as they learn and grow. That would probably be the one that I think back to when I want to enjoy a sequence in a movie that I know I'm going to look forward to that one.
I actually like, because we talked about like the Harry and Hermione dancing scene. I put on here. But that's one that, for me at least, like on YouTube, YouTube knows I'm a Potter nerd, right? And so that one will pop up every once in a while just by itself, and it'll just play. So I feel like I've seen that one the most, like just by itself as a scene, which kind of works. And it kind of, it's just kind of their friendship on display in one scene, which is cool. If I had to go back for like nostalgia and stuff, I would maybe say Diagon Alley. Like the first time that first time Harry goes to Diagon Alley and all of the like, holy crap, this magic is really cool kind of stuff. Like that's a really impactful one. But some of the action stuff too. Dumbledore versus Voldemort in the Ministry from Order to Phoenix. That was a cool scene. That was
I think that would be my winner.
Very watchable. Yeah.
There's other scenes that I love, like I talked about the Aragorn's death scene. I love that scene, but like it doesn't. Not that the Voldemort and Dumbledore scene brings me joy, but it's like exciting. Like I want to rewatch it. There's some other scenes I really like, but they kind of make me sad, or they're more like I really like. I think that would be like my favorite scene.
I like that scene. I don't think I would pick an action scene. I just don't. I think I want like some sort of character interactions or like some sort of moment that makes you feel this world. I think my vote would probably go to Diagon Alley, which shocks me because I like when they're having fun when they're teenagers. Like I think I like some of those moments in like 4, 5, 6. But there is something quite magical. And maybe it's my relationship, like Diagon Alley, you go to the studio tour, you go to the theme park. But I think that moment is quite special for the world to unveil.
There's some stuff mentioned later, like the tent scene in Goblet, which I originally had on this list, but I took it off because it's like mentioned some other kind. I love that too. The first time they go in the tent, that was like a really cool, like magic moment. I think the tent could have been even cooler, but it's exciting in the book and in the movie. All right, should I go to the next one?
Let's do it.
Do we have to pick a winner?
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're not going to agree, but we can go for it.
Well, me and Jamie both voted for Dumbledore versus Voldemort in the Ministry.
So you lose. He's like, don't pick a winner now.
This is just my friends. A24 is doing a festival at an independent theater here, and they went and saw Moonlight last night. And my friend was like, it was good, but it shouldn't. She's a huge La La Land fan. It should have never beat La La Land, and that's what you guys are doing. Just kidding. Moonlight's great. All right.
Moonlight is
next
great.
Category is the most cringe line. There are so many. I don't know how you guys did this.
So this is what the list we came up with. I don't even remember this one, but Steven put this one. Do the hippogriff, which apparently is a Yule Ball, a dance. Is a DJ like do the hippogriff?
It's really awkward. It's like, I don't know, the electric slide or something like that, but way more awkward for people to do it. They were all doing it to dance. Or maybe it's like the chicken dance or something, but it was
it's
very
like
strange.
I'm trying way too hard. That scene is really trying hard to like make them cool teenagers. It's like, no. The post Jenny kneeling to tie Harry's shoe and saying "Merry Christmas, Harry," which is cringy but also really awkward. Voldemort just turning to dust in general. Our favorite, obviously. Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? Screamed at, not calmly, by Dumbledore to Harry in Goblet of Fire. General, my father would hear about this, and then there's different variations throughout. It's just, I mean, I get why it's in the book, but it's just so awkwardly.
It's not like
put.
Well done either.
Yes.
Is the thing. Like sometimes you could make those types of lines work, but it was just so like I don't know.
Smug. It was just very like typical smug 90s kid in a movie, which worked for the time. Every time you hear "You Have Your Mother's Eyes," where it's like just awkwardly placed or like just shoved out our
his
throats.
Mother's eyes because they gave him blue eyes in the movies, and it doesn't actually match his mom's eyes.
He couldn't wear the contacts or whatever.
I know. CGI.
Okay. This is I hate this line every time. It makes me want to throw up, but I said I hate the endings of most of these movies. And it's Hermione's, "Everything's gonna change now, isn't it?" Like, oh my gosh. And then we talked about this just recently. Hermione, "You're the best at spells," with the little cheek rub. And then the Jenny and Harry in the room of requirement after the kiss, and she says, "That can stay up here too, if you'd like."
See, that I'm inclined to go with that one, but I don't know if it's because I overall hate how they handled them getting together, them kissing. Like, it was all so bad, but it is awkward. It just doesn't
I
work.
like the delivery of the line. Like, I get what they were going for, and her delivery I think is fine. It's just the line itself. Why is this all happening? Why are we
I think Hermione, "You're the best at spells" is the most I literally react. I cringe. Like, I really am like, "Rupert, what are you doing?" every time I say it. So that would probably be my vote.
And with the cheek touch, it's like, oh, no.
It just takes it to an extra level of creepy with the way he like reaches out. Like it's almost like because they're supposed to have a thing going on because they like each other, right? And I feel like they're trying to add that to it and have like a physical touch, but man, it just felt.
I'm glad you guys see that too, because I feel as a girl that like guys would probably think that like that's a sweet thing to do. But it just reminds me of every like awkward, especially like an older man, creepy interaction where they like kind of, and you're like, what? Yeah. That one can win if you guys all agree on that one.
Yeah. I think people will be like, "Goblet of Fire" is the worst line, but I think there's a difference between worse and cringiest, and this is cringy, whereas that one's just like, angering.
You effed it up.
All right, this one, we're going to get serious, and I'm going to try not to make a pun with that. It's the most heartbreaking scene. I can go through these. Sirius's death, Dumbledore's death. So, and I think it's important to, like, we are focusing on how these were actually delivered in the film. Hedwig's death.
Yes, compared to
Snape's death. Hyphen looking into Harry's eyes. Very important. Hermione obliviates her parents. Hedwig's death again. It was that bad. It's nominated twice. Harry seeing his parents in the Mirror of Erised. Oh gosh. That's Dobby's death. Such a beautiful place to be with friends. How'd I do? Okay. And then Harry walking to the forest to die. And then Cedric's father screaming, "That's my son, my boy."
That was like way better of an impression than I thought you would do.
Oh.
Took me by surprise.
We're both so spot on. It's so different, Mitchell. Wow. You're just full of surprises.
He's preparing for his voice acting.
I've got to switch it up. The deaths, I feel like, I'm trying to remember which one actually made me get teary, because I think that matters, because the books, I generally got fairly emotional during a lot of these deaths. Maybe not Snape's, and I do think it's beautifully done, but I don't know if any. I think Dobby is actually the most effective death in the films, even though he gets shortchanged in these movies. I will say Harry walking through the forest to die is, I connect it too much with the book, and I think they executed it well, and it does make me emotional. So that could be up there, but I don't know if I'm equating the book. And then Harry seeing his parents, you got to remember that's movie 1, and you do really feel something for this kid. So I'd say those are kind of my top 3. What do you guys think?
I should have put the Lily scene with Slughorn, but the Dobby's death, I think they do really well. I mean, considering that people who watch the movies probably don't care at all about Dobby because they've seen him like 3 times. But all the other deaths, it's like just doesn't compare to the books. So that's hard for me personally. So I don't know if people who watch the movies, it affects them more. The Cedric's dad, what's Amos? saying that line it does make me cry every time. And I don't really like a ton about that movie, but I do. That does make me really sad. But and then Hermione obliterating her parents, not even just that moment, but like her leaving is very sad to me. But I would say Dobby's death is probably number one.
Well, I think the ones that are most impactful, because we talked about before, right, is the movies didn't really have time to like build the relationships, right? So even with Cedric, like we saw him enough during the movie that I think we cared when he died, but it wasn't as much as I feel like he did in the book at all. But like his dad, like losing, like that's something that I think a lot of people can relate to, and that drives his death home so well.
The
And the same
performance of the
thing,
dad, like you feel bad for the dad. It's
exactly.
not necessarily
Like
you're
I'm just
sad
like, okay,
about
even though
Cedric.
you yourself are not feeling it, like you can feel it through Amos's like reaction, which is really impactful. And so I'd say for the same reason, that's why I agree that Dobby's death is probably the most powerful. And it's because even though he wasn't in the series as much as he should have been, they did a good job of like Harry. I mean, he loses all these protectors, Sirius dies and Dumbledore dies. And it kind of, when they lose hope, it looks like they have no one else. Dobby appears and like saves their butts. And just as it's like, not only do we like Dobby and is he, cute and all that kind of stuff, but he also like he's this huge hero, and then he dies immediately after that. So they were that really was still so impactful, and that one gets me every single time. Snape's death is probably a close second for me. Hedwig, I don't think we really got the relationship like strongly enough in the movies for that to really be too impactful, other than like, oh no, my owl died, and
No,
but
my
yeah,
Alda.
I would go with Dobby. I'm like, oh no, my pet died. I mean, I've lost enough goldfish that I'm kind of like, it was enough. But
Wow.
Hedwig again in the books, but in the books, like you just get more of Hedwig, and like the time he's at the Dursleys, and Hedwig's like his only time in the magical world and stuff, and it's more meaningful. In the movies, I don't feel like that's ever really conveyed. It's just sad that he lost his owl. So
I think that's an easy one then. Dobby takes it for most heartbreaking scene. Now, the next one, also somewhat serious, and like this is one where I wonder if there's some small moments I'm forgetting, but I think we have a really good list, and like there's one actor that stands out to me that is kind of has to be in this. So, best acted scene. Do you want to take us through these, Jay?
Yeah. So first we have Prisoner of Azkaban, Daniel Radcliffe, Gary Oldman, and David.
Thewlis?
Don't know his last name. Yes. Shrieking Shack reveal. And then Harry Potter 5, Gary Oldman as Sirius, a father-brother coming to rescue them and then dying. Gary Oldman and Daniel Radcliffe in front of the family tree in Grimmauld Place. 5, Michael Gambon and Ralph Fiennes in the battle, Dumbledore versus Voldemort. Part 1, Emma and Dan dance scene. Also, Part 1, Emma and Dan in Godric's Hollow. Part 2, Alan Rickman, Snape's true loyalties and his sacrifice reveal, him dying scene. And then Daniel Radcliffe at the end of Order after the battle between Voldemort and Dumbledore. That guy.
I don't know. This is a hard one. I feel like too. There's a contrast because there are quite a few scenes where the acting is bad, and so these ones make it like there's quite a few. So it does make these ones even more. I wouldn't say rare necessarily, but like they really do hit home. I do still like the dance. I think we talked about that being, Hermione's and Emma Watson's movie where, she really shined, and that was one of those scenes. So that was a big one for me. But otherwise, like anything Gary Oldman, I feel like he did a really good job with the short screen time that he had as Sirius. So I might lean into that one of, just kind of the sequence of him and Harry getting really close. I think the family tree is part of that. And then, him dying, kind of the way he plays that off, like the shock and everything is pretty powerful.
And I feel like he brings, I think I talked about earlier, like the tapestry scene or whatever, the family tree scene with Harry. It's like he brought like Daniel up to his level, like all those scenes they had to get. I mean, he improved his acting, and I feel like he improves the acting of people around him because he must be a really good scene partner. Another one I just thought of was the Snape's house Spinner's End scene. That's also a really good one. But I would definitely say between Alan Rickman and Gary Oldman. But I feel like every scene Gary Oldman's in, and maybe there's something to the fact that he's not in very much of the movies, but like it really shines to me. But I also love, I mean, part one, those scenes with Emma and Danny, it's almost like you're like proud of them, like because you've seen them on this journey and it like pays off. So it's a hard one.
Well, I think that's the thing is like they're leveling up and they've learned and they've grown and like they are really well acted. And I think you can put them side by side. So maybe it's biased to just say I think that the older actors are just operating on another level. Like I think there's not a specific scene that comes to mind for Umbridge, but I think generally her character is incredible. And Maggie Smith and Slughorn, like he does amazing things with the little bits he's given. And like you could say stuff around Aragog. I generally just like as much as I love that scene with him and Robbie, I don't think it can be that high. So to me, it's Gary and Dan in front of the family tree because it shows he's elevating someone else's performance. He's performing so well. It tells such, like I said, so little screen time for him to express such a great story. Emma and Dan and Godric's is definitely the best for the kids, in my opinion. But I would just say, yeah, Alan Rickman's a great actor, but I don't know if there's a moment that affects me like Gary just pops out and affects me.
It's true. I agree. Like even I always feel a little bit disappointed by Snape's death scene, even though he does amazing in it. But I also feel like it's almost kind of confusing when you get to that point and I don't know. That's just my own projection of what other people are feeling. I don't know. We should have gone through at some point and did like everyone's best scene, like of the trio, or something to
There's
think
still
about.
time.
There's still time. Next time.
All right, are we happy with Gary and Dan in the family tree, or do we want his death? Or what do you think?
I think Gary and Dan in the family tree, yeah,
because
I
it's a
think
good
that's
back
what makes
and forth.
the death. That's why the death matters. Is that's one that really drives from the relationship. So I think that if that hadn't gone well, we wouldn't have cared as much when he died.
But I do love Dan's from that moment on for the rest of that movie. I think he does a really good job, like playing possessed and Bellatrix, going after Bellatrix. I do think he does really well, and I think that's the first time you're like, oh man, this kid's like.
He's good at angsty, and I think it's really interesting because coming out of it, I don't know if we he's been in some of the most interesting stuff, and he's done some weird things. Shout out to Now You See Me Too, but I think he's shown he's really good, and he has to be so angsty, and that his fit at the end is good acting, but I think he's so annoying it's hard to consider it. Let's move on. We have a couple quicker categories. This is the first of two music-based awards, and this is the best score. And so we have Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Half-Blood Prince, and Deathly Hallows Part 2. I would put Order of the Phoenix in here. It's funny because some of the music around the Triwizard Tournament from 4 I really love, but the overall score, I see why we have the mix that we have. So I don't know, maybe I'm not musical enough, even though I put it in the next category, best musical moment. But I don't know which one really carries us through. It matches the narrative. It's memorable. Like when you think about these scores, like playing at the theme park, when you're just walking through and it gives you that same feeling, that rush of being at Hogwarts, especially, and everything. So you guys can kind of go to bat for some of these. I think 1 is iconic, but the later ones, they create an environment. So yeah,
that's what I say. Like 5 is really good in like that upbeat kind of thing, and like with all the montages and really like defining Umbridge and stuff, which I love about it. But obviously 1 is the basis of everything. I love 6. I feel like it elevates what's planted in the earlier movies, and it really carries throughout those last 3 movies, like kind of a more elevated, bringing in like, I don't know, there's a lot of flute, there's a lot of scenes driven by it, like the Quidditch and the kissing scenes and when Hermione's upset at Ron. I really, really love that scene. I actually wanted one of the songs to be like the song I walked down the aisle to. That's from that. So my favorite 6, I think overall, Part 2 is probably the best score in the fact that like is a buildup of all the other movies. It's kind of paying homage to like the beginning, Harry Potter, and also you have like the buildup of the battle scenes and all that kind of stuff.
I think my final one for score is 1, and I think it's the scene setter, and there's others that are iconic and I like living in the moment, but I think the fact that John Williams did so good setting, because 3 has some unique stuff itself. I don't know, everyone, and I don't know if how much they reuse elements from each one. Maybe that's important, but I think 1 being so good to set the tone was important.
Dang it, Mitchell. I was really counting on you two like agreeing, and then mine wouldn't matter because I was torn between 1 and 7 Part 2 because of kind of what you're talking about. One, like, set the stage so perfectly, and I feel like that's just what it set the foundation they were able to build on. But like Deathly Hallows Part Two just takes it to this like other level, and I feel like that kind of happens, like you said, in the sixth and seventh movie as well. But that last one, like, there's so many elements from the beginning that like tie you back to the first film and everything. But they're just able to elevate it so much. So crap. I'm gonna go with Deathly Hallows Part Two. I think it was just like a nice crescendo. It was a way to pull it all
I
together.
think one is the most iconic. Like, you think of Harry Potter, you think of that at
Yeah.
the beginning. But
And 7 Part 2 is so epic. It delivers. When we say they had to land the plane on the final film, like, just the fact that it does, I'm happy with that being the
just
winner.
seeing that scene of them running through the battle and fighting like, on the grounds of Hogwarts, like all that, like, it's pretty cool. And
Yeah,
I mean, just
definitely.
the big set pieces they had to like move along with music about. Pretty good.
All right. Part 2 of music, the best musical moment. So I guess this can mean a myriad of things, maybe even as a chunk of score, but where the music really factors in. So the nominees that I had put in were one, the Weird Sisters, the band performing. I just thought the kids were having fun, and I was like, oh, they kind of made it sound like a wizard rock band.
Yeah,
And then
this is cool.
Yeah, the Bogart, they put in like the big gramophone record, and it's funky. It's very different. It's one of the good things Alfonso did that was very unique compared to the first two films, and it's just fun. It's a memorable moment. Hedwig's theme, the first time it comes in, I mean, this is the same argument as for Philosopher's Stone, isn't it? It's like it's one of the most famous. It's along with like Star Wars. It's one of the most famous tunes you'll ever hear now. The dancing in Deathly Hallows Part 1, because that sexual tension was palpable.
No.
And then we have Umbridge, very Vader-like, and then Celestina Warbeck, which that one to me, I just still think of the book. I still think of Jim Dale
needed more
badly
time.
singing Celestina, which cracks me up.
Yes. That's our best musical moment from the audiobook.
Yeah.
Jim Dale singing.
Him, I like the school song too, in both the book and the film. Also, a lot of people will think of the intro in Azkaban when they're singing like the No Toil Trouble thing song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, what do you guys? I think my overall vote would go to. Oh gosh, I don't know. Let me think.
I would say for like music that's actually in the movie, which this kind of is both, but it'd probably be the Bogart scene, because it is like the score soundtrack, but it's actually like, he puts the music on and it's just fun. Like, and it's the first time I feel like we see something like that in the movie. But Hedwig's theme is obviously like a huge.
But which
go on, Steve.
I really like what you said about the Bogart, the Weird Sisters, and Celestina Warbeck, because
dang it,
I love how that is a different type of world building, like adding in like they have their own like not just famous people, but kind of their own flavor of music and stuff that like Muggles may not necessarily. The Weird Sisters sing the stupid like hippogriff song, or do the hippogriff, and and so it just makes it kind of unique. But so I really like him for that aspect, and the Celestina Warbeck piece just always reminds me, yes, a lot more of the books and Fleur and Mrs. Weasley. It kind of really helps to define their relationship in a simple way. But I mean, when I think of Harry Potter, I think of Hedwig's theme. Like, I think that's just this thing that's impossible.
But what exact
to separate from Harry
moment
at this point?
Is it literally the logo? Because having the logo be the best musical moment is tough.
Well, because it's not just the logo; it's because that.
No, it's not. So I'm wondering, is there another time you can picture?
Yeah, those notes are just used so often. I mean, I'm thinking of the theme parks and stuff too, because I was just there, and so like, but you hear that, and it's Harry, man.
I don't know. It's just hard for me, because it's like, is it music like, because that's a part of the score, or like music actually in the movie? Like, I forget the word. I went to film school for this, and I remember writing papers about it, and I can't remember the word. I think it's two different things. That's what I kind of like about the Bogart scene, because it kind of has a little bit of both.
Well, and I'm thinking
I'm voting for the Bogart scene
of music that's inside the movie, right? Like, you took it off the list, Jamie, but the bird scene from Half-Blood Prince, like, talk about that one a little bit, because I think that one was a really cool way to.
Well, I love that, because you just like feel the whole scene, and then it's kind of incorporating the actual sound of the birds and stuff. So I really like that on like a nerdy, I don't know, and I love that scene. And like poor
Oh,
Hermione.
that reminds me of Hermione. Speaking of sad Hermione, after the Yule Ball, when she's sitting on the stairs and that big vocal comes in, and it kind of feels like an 80s, an 80s dance moment. I don't know. Not an 80s dance moment, but like after a sad teenage moment. I really enjoy that as well.
And I do like that the whole Yule Ball, like the music and stuff, because it kind of reminds me a little bit of Hocus Pocus in a way, but it's also like, okay, these are actually kids like having fun. Like in the book, it's even more fun because aren't they like excited about them getting the weird sisters and stuff in the book?
Yeah.
So they don't really talk about that so much in the movie.
I feel
but
like it was a lot
you're
less
like, oh yeah, these are
awkward in
like
the book. Maybe that was
kids.
just me, but the movies just like really drove home.
It does
that,
feel a
like,
little
everyone's out of their element.
Forced. That's what I was talking about with earlier when we were talking about that scene with like do the hippogriff. It feels a little bit forced, but maybe those things are cheesy and awkward. We went to a lot of youth dances as kids. It's weird.
And these kids like are less socialized. A lot of them were homeschooled a lot. Like they're not going to these dances and stuff. So it might have been a little bit awkward the first time they're like like they're not going to show. Are they going to wizard shows all the time? Probably not. Anyway, let's do a final vote. Jamie.
I'll say Bogart.
Steven.
I'm going to stick with Hedwig's theme.
I'm going to go with the Bogart. I like that one. It's a little bit of a character one. Okay. The next one. Sound? Best on-screen chemistry. Number 1, Harry and Hermione's dance. Wonderful. You know how I feel about that. Harry. Did I say Ron? Anyways, part 2, Ron and Hermione's first kiss. I don't think they have chemistry. 5, Harry and Sirius acting their butts off. Ron and Lavender, comedic geniuses. And Ron and McGonagall, which is like the perfect awkward moment.
That should have been our best dance, our best music.
Yeah. Well, there's Voldemort hugging Draco's another great awkward moment, but I wouldn't call it their chemistry. So yeah, if we're calling it the chemistry moment, I would be kind of torn between Ron and Lavender and Harry and Sirius, just because acting chemistry wise and like actually feeling like Harry is invested in this man as a father figure. Like I think of chemistry, like I just think, oh, yeah, that did pop off, even though I like the romantic chemistry of Harry and Hermione better.
I love the Harry Hermione scene. You guys know that's like a very special scene to me, not because it's romantic, but I think overall for like what is supposed to be of the relationships, the Harry and Sirius relationship is like just a touchdown for me because it actually feels like Harry's putting all his hope in this man. It feels more like the book, like Harry, like there's so much put into that relationship.
I'm with you guys on that one. I think that at the end of the day, I think there are moments where you have the dance and the kiss and some of those things, but like the relationship in like multiple scenes and like you get invested in it. I feel like Harry and Sirius are the ones that really build it up.
That's it. That's an easy one. I think overall the trio has pretty good chemistry, the three of them, but I can only think of a few moments where it really stands out, and I think Gary Oldman is just a winner.
He's just Gary Oldman.
So next we're going to go through, and this is kind of a tandem. We're going to start with best addition.
Can I go back for 1 second? Because about the musical moment one. So this isn't in the movies, of course, but in the books. So I wanted to talk about the tent scene where Ron leaves, and that. Do you guys remember like the plop, plop, plop of the rain hitting the tent?
Mm-hmm.
And like that to me was so like visceral. Like I could hear it, like as they're having these arguments, and they get interrupted by another raindrop hitting the tent. And that was one of the first times I remember like reading something that I could hear. You know what I mean? Like it was so well done, and like it's not musical score, it's not a musical moment, but like sound was used so effectively. Like it so set the tone for that whole argument and like the rapidity as it sped up and everyone got mad at each other. So I just want to throw that in there as not a movie thing, but a book thing that was really well done by Joe.
That's how I am with the Harry digging Dobby's grave.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like I'm not very good at imagining like full scenes of things or even like characters' faces, but I could see that whole thing when I read that and the sound of him shoveling.
The rhythm of
the way that Jim Dale uses cadence is like and different things like and pronunciation. He's a genius. Stephen Fry, you're good too. But we're going to talk about the best addition and omission. So addition, not in the books, but in the movies. So it made the story overall feel better. Stephen, you want to take us through these?
Definitely. So in Order of the Phoenix, they're in the middle of that battle, and Sirius accidentally calls Harry James. He yells, "Nice one, James." Man, was that a gut punch. Then you got Harry and Hermione's dance, of course. That's in every single category. Hermione erasing her parents' memories. was an addition. Neville blowing up the bridge. Harry confronting Snape in the Great Hall, which is not in the books. And then Punch in the Order of the Phoenix. Who punched who, Jamie?
When doesn't Sirius punch Draco or Malfoy? Sorry.
Yeah, that's a good punch.
Oh, he punches Lucius. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That is a
Gary
nice
Oldman decided to
addition.
punch him.
Well, that's what I've said a
Yeah,
few
I think
times. Like,
where
some
you-
of the shooting sparks at each other thing just isn't as meaningful. So I do enjoy the places where like Hermione just socks Malfoy in the face, or in this case, Sirius doing it to
Because sometimes you gotta hit
Lucius.
someone. You just gotta.
So what would you guys say? What do you
Is
think is the most
I
impactful?
feel like we lean heavily on the later ones there, and the early ones, obviously, they're a little bit more faithful in some ways. And 3, some people don't like how different it is in some ways. So, but I just want to point out that we accept our understanding that we are biased towards these later movies with some of the additions and changes.
Well, in the first 2, they hit everything pretty good. That's in there. I mean, there's things that are cut that we'll talk about.
Yeah, there's some omissions.
But it gets so, for me in 3 and 4, it's hard for me to like remember what's an addition and what's, because it's so all over the place. Anyway, for me, I think, I don't know, I really love the whole beginning of part 1, Deathly Hallows part 1, and Hermione, like seeing Hermione erase her parents' memories and just everyone's journey to getting together to go on to the big journey. I love all that.
It does a lot of unsaid exposition and sets some of the scene that you don't want people to say out loud, or you can't cover all that's going on in the book. I think that's a very good point.
And even seeing like Petunia sitting in the car and just like her face, like there's these little acting moments that like we as book readers know how much that means and what's going on behind everything a little bit more. And all the deleted scenes, the Harry and Dudley scene, which is kind of in the book.
Yeah, I will say I don't like Harry confronting Snape in the Great Hall. I like it, but I think I was so frustrated by how different that third act is handled. Everything, even from Harry's arrival with Neville, that's when it stops being good. I'm like, why did they have to adjust every little bit? And it just felt so on the nose. I'm like, no one saw him. He was just kind of hiding. Anyway, that's the only one in here that I'm not inclined towards. But otherwise, I could go pretty much any direction.
Yeah, I'm torn between the first one I mentioned. So Sirius calling Harry James. I thought that one was so revelatory of like what
that is good.
Sirius wishes their relationship was and like what Harry means to him, right? And there's some pieces in the book where Mrs. Weasley has to remind Sirius, right? Like he's not James, like he's not your friend, right? He's like a kid still. And so that one really helps clarify who Sirius is and like what he's dealing with. But I think I agree with Jamie that Hermione erasing her parents' memories was such an eloquent way. Like in the books, we don't find out about that until much later, like what's going on with her parents and where they are and why they're safe. But starting off the movie that way and just like coming to terms with the sacrifices they're all making because of what they're heading off to do, I think that would be, I think that's the best addition probably.
That's it. That's the winner. Chicken dinner. All right. The worst omission. And honestly, we have a lot of nominees, so we'll have to make these kind of go quick. I'll run through them and try not to add any, but obviously you could go on for days. Book one, movie 1, and for all of them, Peeves is missing, although he kind of gets forgotten later in the books too. The Headless Hunt from number 2, a very fun character moment. The Marauder's backstory in HP 3. In 6, Percy's estrangement from his family, that ambitious douche. HP Voldemort's full backstory. We just don't get the right flashbacks to build him up. In 4, Dobby's ongoing appearances and involvement, which would have made that death hit even harder. Also in 4, SPEW. We need to know that Hermione is an ally.
I just read the next one.
Goblet of Fire. Omission from Goblet of Fire. Dumbledore remaining calm. Oh, that's
not
in 7. My choice. I can already tell you, because I could go into depth on all of these and they all do matter to me, but the Harry and Voldemort final duel, the way they're supposed to circle each other like it's a duel, is very bad. And then off the back of that, Harry repairing his wand, which, I just don't love the way that it ends. I want him to have that Phoenix wand, the one. I think we need some nice up close shots of that in the TV series. Like, bring us right in on that and let's understand how important it is to Harry, because he loses it for much of this book and the final movie. And then 7 and 8, Dumbledore's backstory to really build that up. He really is a main character that happens to die and becomes so much more important. And they just have to squeeze that in. And that's tough to do. One of the big things they can improve is Dumbledore's backstory in the Deathly Hallows. But again, to me, it's Harry and Voldemort final duel. What do you guys think?
For
First
me,
of
it
all,
just
I
has
gotta
to
read
be.
the rest of the. So the category is worst omission, and then parentheses it says in the books didn't make it into the movies, and it ruined everything. So I just want to make sure that we get that.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh man.
Okay, I guess I did not read the parentheses because I was about to say I think Voldemort's full backstory, which I mean, and Dumbledore's backstory, it just means so much. It adds so much to the characters in the movie. But I guess for what ruined everything,
No, they
it would
all still
probably be
qualify. I'm just being
Dumbledore
dramatic.
remaining calm for me. But I agree with Mitchell too on the final.
It could have been the Headless Hunt, which, the Headless Hunt is something that even though the other books are so much longer, we kind of don't get these we don't get enough of these weird little sojourns into bits of the magical world, even though the world expands so much. So I hope they find some ways to play with that.
Well, and just speaking of Chambers of Secrets in general, those are the things that kind of save it as a book, is like the exciting, like side magic stuff. And they have to cut a lot of that. But yeah, it's a rough one.
It's true. Well, I think so many of these too are things we talked about so many times, right? It's like there's all these little things that get omitted throughout the series, and so therefore, like it doesn't build up the relationships of the characters, and so every one of them matters, right? And ruins everything in the end when they leave stuff out. But I would have to say it's the backstories for me. I mean, I think both Voldemort and Dumbledore, understanding where they are, it doesn't just build out the characters; it builds out the world, right? Because knowing what happened with Voldemort before, you get this understanding of before Harry and his parents, like what was Voldemort doing? How was it that he was amassing a following and it was transforming the magical world, right? And then Dumbledore's part in that, as he was, tempted to go for, all the power and in the end decided to be a teacher and just, stop the bad guys. Right? So much of that leads to the story that we're in currently as we read through the books. So I'd say if those two could tie, then that'd be one. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a single one I could pick. I'm having a hard time.
It's just hard because those things tie into so many things, like about the prophecy, like just people even understand the prophecy and all that stuff. It's all mixed up in like Voldemort's backstory and Dumbledore's and all.
You know what?
I think that
I'm calling it a tie. They do that sometimes, not at the Oscars, but at other ones they do.
Hit the snitchies or whatever the hell is this.
The snitches. What up, snitches? Okay, the best action scene from the movies. From Goblet of Fire, the Tri-Wizard Task. From 5, the battle at the Department of Ministry. Also in 5, Dumbledore versus Voldemort, which is kind of part of the battle. Anyway, 6, fighting the Inferi. I'm shocked you didn't put the Burrow, even though it's not really a battle.
I don't want to start a war here.
7, Part 1, Flight of the Seven Potters. Part 2, we have Gringotts, then we have the Battle of Hogwarts, and then we have the Harry and Voldemort final duel. I'll get out of the way of this one. Harry and the final duel, they screwed it up. Don't talk to me about it. Battle of Hogwarts is an extended one. Like that comprises of a lot, and I think that should be in contention. And to me, these are all wonderful. It actually made me think, oh yeah, there's really good stuff. But to me, it is the Battle at the Ministry. One of my favorite moments is when the Order shows up to help the kids when they're getting attacked. So it's a great moment. It has all that emotion packed into it, and just action and fighting wise, it's cool because the kids are not quite ready to fight adults, but they're going for it. It's the culmination of the DA. So for me, it'd be the Department of the Ministries, but obviously some great choices.
I agree. 5, I mean, the Department of Ministries and the Dumbledore Voldemort. I love the glass being turned into I don't know, shattering. I love all that stuff with the Voldemort Dumbledore fight, but I love the moment the Death Eaters show up on. I just think it's such a good scene. It has highs and lows. So much happens. That's my favorite. The Battle of Hogwarts would be a close second, but there is it's interrupted a lot. And I mean, that's how the book is too. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's just some things that I'm ick about
they
in
handle
that just turned me off.
All the sequences, all the chaos, the giants, the spiders, the different characters, like it's all kind of there. They did like to see Hogwarts
It's
destroyed was epically well done. It is on a more of like a good Marvel scale compared to a lot of the other action, and the dome is like currently cracking. Like it is, yeah, it is epic in a certain way, but maybe there's just something more like, yeah,
But you
I'm
just don't have
questioning
like
myself.
the thing about the end of 5 is like you just have that feeling like you're cheering and it comes to like you know, like there's a climax and resolution and
You
you're
have
just
tension.
you
There's a
want
different
this
type
to
of
happen,
tension.
and it happens. Yeah.
The big
One
battle
thing-
at the end of the series is different from having the individual emotion and tension at the end of something along the
And
way.
it's paced really well.
Well, I think the Battle of Hogwarts is like half of the movie. That's almost the problem. Like it's such a long,
Yeah.
it's a group of sequences really rather than a scene. And I think that's where it's hard to say like what in there was the scene that was the most had the most action and was the best. And I think it's hard to nail it down. But I mean, overall, they get everything in there. I think they did a really good job with it as far as like we said, like pacing and the excitement and the weight of what's going on and stuff. But I think I actually kind of combine them, the battle at the Department of Mysteries and Dumbledore versus Voldemort, because as you guys said, that is kind of the same thing. But I'll say Dumbledore versus Voldemort, the coolest thing about that was just like Jamie said, we had seen duels between kids before, or even just, wizards shooting spells at each other. But this is where they're like taking the thing that's flung at them by the other wizard, turning it into something else, and then, like the sand or the glass being turned into sand, or all these different things that they do. It's a very different way for wizards to fight, and in a way it's one of those really magical things. So it was action packed, and it was also very new, and I think that is part of what kept it so dang exciting. So I would probably put mostly Dumbledore versus Voldemort, but I think that the rest of the Department of Mysteries battle is all wrapped into that.
On the other hand, I would do mostly the mystery. Obviously, we can't make it the whole end of the movie. We can't have 2 ties in a row. So, Jamie, you have to choose.
Well, I love the Dumbledore Voldemort fight.
You guys suck. All right, moving on.
Already.
Most magical moment. Oh man, this is tough because they're like the movie. I think for as hard as we are on the movies, the fact that they give you that magical feeling enough is pretty cool. So we have the first time seeing Hogwarts, the reveal, the Great Hall at Christmas, the Yule Ball, Harry flying for the first time, Buckbeak's flight, the Marauders map, the Quidditch World Cup, and Harry walking into the tent, fireworks in 5, or battle magic in part 2. Which one is the actual coolest depiction of magic?
This is hard.
I
would say the
go ahead,
Quidditch
Jamie.
World Cup, but it also hasn't aged well to me.
I thought the same thing. In the books, it is really magical, and I
that's
thought
why I'm mixing it up with the book.
they didn't do a bad job at making it, but yeah, it doesn't look as amazing now. Because first time seeing Hogwarts is almost like cheating, but yeah, and it hasn't aged quite as well. I'm a sucker for Christmas, so like the Great Hall of Christmas, but I can't. It's not a perfect image in my mind. Buckbeak's flight kind of annoys me because it's not how
goes
it happens.
on too long.
And
we don't even fly around the castle of the first 3 movies or 4 movies.
Flying for the first time in Harry walking in the tent. Harry walking in the tent is probably underrated, but it's small. The fireworks in 5, like that's too realistic for me. The battle magic in part 2, they do up it. Like, that part when like it comes in the window and then blows back out, like the Death Eater. Is it Kingsley who does that? Anyway, that's something I wanted to see more of. But yeah, when I think of like what is really a magical moment, gosh, I think maybe it is seeing Hogwarts. Damn, that's cheating.
I would say maybe flying for the first time. I just remember being like, as a kid, seeing that was like so cool. And that's what we were all waiting for. I don't know.
I remember like as a kid, like trying to capture that feeling, like jumping on a trampoline. You get like split second at the top where you're like weightless, just as you're hitting the top and come back down. I remember like thinking about that specifically when I was watching this, trying to be like that feeling, just flying through the air. And so for me, that was pretty visceral. So I would put that one up there, flying for the first time. But and maybe it's just recency bias because we watched this movie last, but like the battle magic in part 2 of Deathly Hallows, like we talked about, like the dome over the castle and it flaking apart, and then McGonagall calling all of the, suits of armor to come and defend the school. Like there's some really cool parts there as they're like prepping for the battle. That's like, man, magic is like this whole other level that we hadn't thought of before. But as like an introductory thing and like coming into the world, maybe first time seeing Hogwarts or flying for the first time.
It's first time seeing Hogwarts. You're not actually seeing magic. Sorry, go on, Jim.
Sorry. I was going to say you guys forgot to put flying smoke magic.
No, because I came to be okay with it, but it does annoy me.
It's hard for me. I agree with Mitchell. I love the battle magic at the end, but I want more of it. Like, it's like, we need more of this. We should have had this in 6.
Flying for the first time, I also have a hard time with because it's not good enough for Harry to conjure a Patronus. So is it really good enough to be our most magical moment?
Oof. Well, then winning the Quidditch Cup isn't even on here. It's not magical either. It's just the sport.
So I think the first time seeing Hogwarts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is. It's like dark. It's over the lake. I think it could have been improved, but it did, like we talked about Hedwig's theme, and you get that bit and like the way it blends into the Hogwarts music, like it is unforgettable.
Yeah.
But you're just like, it's not you actually seeing magic.
Yeah. That's the thing. We've kind of blended two different bits of magic. It's real magic, Jamie.
But the boats
is
are
real
steering
magic,
themselves
which I love.
across the lake when that happens, right? Isn't
That's
that
true.
the same
And you're
moment?
just so excited. I mean, as a reader, you're like, you know what it means, and you know what makes us see Hogwarts. Like, so much.
That's what it is. First time seeing Hogwarts and automatic boats, the Tesla boats, the fruition of magic. All right. We didn't put any nominees for this, but if you guys want to give thoughts, the most memorable hair, Hermione,
hair,
when she uses
costume, some of them were terrible. By the way.
You know what, they were, but overall, like the way they do Umbridge and stuff, I think I got frustrated with the robes at times. Hair wise, I think like Lockhart was good. Yeah, I don't know if anything really stands out to me. If there's a most memorable hair, or
the only thing memorable is the inconsistency of Hermione's hair in the dance scene. But
well,
no, but I think
they go through the movies. Isn't it 4 where they all have like the oddly long hair?
Let's just give it.
I hate it.
All right, final word.
Give it to 4.
The most memorable
for the
hair
wild
is
hair.
all of Goblet of Fire, which I will say for that, because we talk about
awful.
Hermione's hair. It's supposed to be so bushy, and then she straightens it and does it up for Goblet, and it doesn't. It's not as much of a wild.
Her, and I know this is controversial. Her whole Yule Ball look is a disappointment to me.
Yeah,
not what I wanted, and I just think her hair is kind of not exciting in that. But that's fine. Give it to them. I like Harry's hair in 5, and it's nothing like it's supposed to be, but I think it's the best he looks.
All right, and stolen directly from the MTV Movie Awards, the best kiss we have Harry and Ginny. Obviously, I shouldn't have even put this on the list, but there's only so many kisses in the series. Harry and Cho, which was awkward and accurate. Harry and Hermione naked in a locket, getting it on. Ron and Hermione in the Chamber of Secrets, and Wan and Lav just being teenagers, just making out after a big old Quidditch dub.
I'm gonna say in the locket.
I think it's gotta be Ron and Hermione. That's the one where like they both wanted it. I think this moment. Well, I don't think it was perfect, but I think like Harry and Cho, like she was crying, it was so weird, and Harry and Ginny in the movies with the shoes, like. I don't know, like, or hiding the book is like, I feel like there's all this awkwardness around. For them, it was this happy moment where they're just like flying in each other's arms. I don't know.
I think like contrived what it's supposed to be, it would be the Ron and Hermione because there's this build up. It's like after this big moment, but I just don't feel it.
It's not even.
Although I do think they should be together.
It's not even me being anti their relationship. I just remember that happening, and like they just drop it and they just embrace and go for it, and I'm like, I don't know. I didn't feel anything. I would have gone Harry, Cho, or Ron and Lavender, or the Harry, Hermione in the locket, because it's like just destroying Ron, but it's shadowy figure. So I'd go Ron and Lavender, but it sounds like we're gonna go with Ron and Hermione. Good for Rupert Grint. He's winning the kissing category. Okay, the next category was Half Baked, and I'm sorry, I just didn't have time to research this. And so I put 2 down. I don't know. We can just generally discuss. I don't think we can finalize very well, but the best line pulled directly from the books. I know there's some standouts. Obviously, I put "Not my daughter, you bitch," which,
yeah.
But there are some of the very thoughtful Dumbledore lines that were in. That is actually what popped up the most when I kind of just Googled this. And so I put "Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times when only one remembers to turn on the light." There's some really good quotes from Dumbledore that are quite emotional. So do you guys have any other ones that pop to mind? Like there's some simple ones, some one-liners, but yeah.
Don't pity the dead, pity the living. That's one of my favorite lines from the books in general. And then just because it's happening in your head doesn't mean it isn't real, or something like that.
Yeah.
It was happening, but "Not my daughter, you bitch" is the best We were also excited for that. It was delivered so well. I feel like some of the Dumbledore lines, I'm really glad they're in the movies, but I feel like they're awkwardly placed there, or they're just placed to like.
It doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
Did you
put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
There's a couple more, and I will be honest. I pulled up ChatGPT to try and get some ideas here of movies, quotes from the movie.
ChatGPT, I did that too. It was wrong about a few. It attributed the wrong people, or I knew for a fact a couple of the lines were not in the books. So anyway, go on.
Well, now I'm questioning this, if I can even say it. So there's the iconic "You're a Wizard" Harry from Hagrid, right?
Oh, I hate that reading in the movie.
Oh my goodness, Sebastian!
Get out!
And then this is one I question because I can't remember it myself, but it's by Sirius. He says, "We've all got both light and dark inside us. What matters is the part we choose to act on. That's who we really are." So I do like that one, but I do think "Not My Daughter, You Bitch" is still the best. I think that nothing else.
Winner, chicken dinner. I think it was one worth talking, but it deserved a bit more depth. But we came out with the winner that would have been the winner anyway. But I'm glad you guys had some good ones that you remember. We can handle this one, Steve. The worst ministry employee. We've got 2 ministers in Fudge and Thickness, and then we have Dawlish, who just seems to get the bad end of every interaction with an Auror. Yeah, I thought Umbridge was a little too obvious, and also we hate her more as a headmistress, but you're right, she is the worst.
She is the worst.
But yeah, just the crappy ones. Well, we need Isaac on here because he will defend Scrimgeour to the death. But
what'd you guys decide for the last one? Oh, you did not.
We went with.
I do like the serious. I do like the serious line too, but I would say Fudge is the worst.
Yeah, the way you come to hate Fudge is quite intense.
Well, and just like his, I mean, Umbridge is a horrible person, but Fudge's inaction.
He's a coward.
Causes a lot of issues.
And she actually builds out Fudge pretty well. I think it's important to note how hypocritical he is. And he is in 3, 4. He's in 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Or I don't know if he pops up in 2, but the ministry is present. Like she does build him really well. And the way he then crashes down, especially in the books, in The Other Minister. And he just says.
That's like in the books.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean, I guess. True. But yeah, he is hateable. He's punchable.
It's cool because the way his character is initially presented as kind of this like nice guy that carries through. Like he's a nice guy who just doesn't have a substance to him, and he doesn't really have like the guts to go and do anything. He's more worried about being seen positively than he is about actually like saving the wizarding world. And as the pressure starts to mount, he becomes more and more apparent that he's just like an idiot and he doesn't know what he's really doing. And so then his inaction just becomes infuriating. So I think it is very well done, at least in the books. I'm trying to remember in the movies his exact evolution. It's probably not as well done, but he's still pretty hateable.
It's like a lot of presidents and prime ministers, just an idiot.
Are we happy to go? Okay, we've got Fudge there. All right, I had a couple silly ones here. I will just remark on them. Gingeriest Weasley. How many of the Weasleys are real gingers as actors? I don't know, but which one of them seems like they don't have a soul? And why is it Percy?
Wait, so you're saying gingers don't have souls?
Yeah, that's like the joke. That's like the meme.
Okay, can you describe your wife for the listeners?
That's not real. That is box dye. Okay? There's a lot of soul sister.
The most soulless, if we're going by that. See, but he's not in the movies.
Yeah, gingeriest. I don't know. I don't think if any of them are natural gingers. Rupert Grint is, isn't he?
Rupert is. And I think Percy is.
Okay.
But
Ginny might be, but it's like much more of a brownish red. Yeah. All right, the next one. This one, I guess, doesn't need to be treated as a joke, but I think the answer is so obvious, and that's best defense against the dark arts teacher, which I think is Lupin, because even if Quirrell was kind of good, like, he was bad. And, like, Moody is, like, very hands-on, but very intimidating. Like, was he actually academically that effective? Whereas Lupin did it. And then who knows if Snape was good? I think Snape is more of a lecturer when it came to defense against the dark arts. So I don't know.
You know what? I have to give
Lupin.
Barty Crouch Jr. some credit. He didn't have to be teaching all that stuff. He taught them some of the most useful stuff.
So
but Lupin was the best. Most of the spells that are used are things that Lupin taught them. But Umbridge is.
That is interesting to think about Moody.
Umbridge.
Right, he actually had like lesson plans and stuff.
Harry.
Like he could have just phoned it in and be like, "Hey, read the chapter," like Umbridge made him do. No, he like came to class and was teaching them, unforgivable curses and stuff.
Torturing
that's
spiders.
To think about.
Well, it's kind of because Harry
Harry
kind of
Potter.
jokes in the fifth one how bad. Harry Potter, if you count him, but he says, "Oh, we have had a real lack of good teachers," and actually, Lupin Quirrell might have been fine, but you have Gilderoy and Umbridge were both terrible before OWLs, but overall they did all right. They, 4 out of 6 weren't horrible.
Hogwarts better be free with the quality of this education.
The next award I put was Sexiest Horcrux, and this was kind of funny. And then Steven is now reminding me that Nagini was a human in the Fantastic Beasts, which makes me feel...
And a woman.
And a woman, and an attractive woman. I didn't even think of that, so I apologize to that actress and to Nagini as a character. None of the other Horcruxes were really,
necklace sexy. I mean, it's got to be the snake, right?
Who's it on?
Or is it Harry?
Or who's drinking out of it? I don't know. What did Tom Riddle? Tom Riddle might have written some sexy stuff in his diary. We don't know.
That bloody journal.
And yes, Harry is also technically a Horcrux, but I don't think Daniel Radcliffe is sexy. I'm so sorry. So,
yeah. I think the ring is pretty
remember
sexy.
going to see Half-Blood Prince with a group of girls that thought Daniel Radcliffe was the hottest thing, and I just didn't see it. Yeah. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you.
And Half-Blood Prince?
All right. Our last 2 awards, I don't know why we should have probably ended with a big award, but...
We do best movie.
Well, we already know the answer, but all right. This one is, we have best opening and best ending scene.
Oh.
And so there's 7 options for each, obviously. Yeah, this is at the very bottom of the document. I didn't list them out because obviously we know what they are. And I think because some of the movies have to open very darkly, or you're in Grimmauld Place, or you're not with Harry, like in 4, I don't love that opening at all. And for me, this is quite easily part 2 of Deathly Hallows.
Part 1 for me.
Well, part 1 is the whole sequence and sets the tone and tells the story, but part 2 just like you kind of getting ready. You're hyped.
Okay, I will say the ending of part 1, the beginning of part 2.
Yeah, I'm super conscious.
I don't
now
like the
of,
ending of part 2.
Recency bias, because we just watched these. Those are the 2 most recent movies we did.
No,
they're winning a lot of awards.
Right,
they all end like shit.
Back. I mean, I appreciate that
until
it built
part 1,
and they did good at the end, but there's some good stuff early on too. But I mean,
I guess they got better at making movies.
The part of the beginning of Goblet's good.
Well, we had a consistent director, right? Those last few movies and stuff, and so he's able to build on it.
Not the
what
beginning
about the
of
Death Who's Attacking London,
3.
Half-Blood Prince.
I do like that.
I actually do really enjoy that.
I love him over the castle. Oh, I do like the beginning of part 2. Is that when Snape's standing there?
Yeah.
I like it. But the ending of part 2 is not the winner. The end of part 2 is poop.
There aren't many great endings, and that's why I think part 1, where you're really emotional and you're also really set up for the next film, I think
there's no cheesy line.
Yeah, whereas the other ones, you have these cheesy lines, you have them going away. Like number 1's not bad, just having the train go off. That felt very classic, very nostalgic, I will say. So best opening,
6 might be good.
I think part 1 is the best opening, and best ending is part 2. Both Deathly Hallows.
You just said that part 2 sucks.
I effed up the ending in part 2. What are you talking about?
No, sorry. Best opening is part 2. Best ending is part 1.
I agree with that.
And yeah, I would also just shout out to Sorcerer's Stone ending because of the best movie. Come on, it's Deathly Hallows Part 1.
I'm aligned with all of those. Yeah,
it smells like garlic.
Last movie opening scene, second to last movie the ending scene, and I mean, Deathly Hallows Part 1. There's just no competing. I'm sorry.
That's a lot of awards. Hopefully, some of those, we'll make.
We'll have to go and start posting these like in groups on our social media so people can absorb them in small batches and get back to us on how much they disagree.
Yeah, we'll do some Instagram posts where people can see what we've decided. I think we did pretty good. Like, we investigated the hell out of these movies. We said mostly nice things, other than the omissions where we really went to town.
And they get to fix all of that. So as long as they listen to our podcast before they make the show, they can fix all of the things that we're ticked about, and then we'll be happy. And that's all we need.
If you think we forgot something critical in one of these categories, which we surely did, then please let us know, comment it, and be like, how could you have not possibly thought of this line? And let us know. And you can reach us at hptvpodcast@gmail.com or on social media at hptvpod. This has been the first Snitchy Potty Award Show. Join us next week on the HPTV Podcast. Jamie, send us out.
Peace out, snitches. Maybe we should call this The Snitches.
The Snitches.
Win a potty.